welcome to Cars R Us. This is part of the Mad Force build Wing It series. Just thought I'd do a little bit of a voiceover. I hope my mic's alright. I've added 3 videos together in this one video and sped it up a bit. I noticed that I had a lot of small jobs on this Mad Force that took up a lot of time, so I sped it up and then added 3 jobs into one video. So it's like 15 minutes long, and I will keep it like that until I sort of get towards the end of the series. Anyway, just replacing the steering linkage. It was missing when I bought the truck. I couldn't get the original linkage rod, so I just bought some M3 110mm rod. I just cut it down to size. Added some heat shrink, as you can see there, and it did the job. Very impressed with it. So I noticed that in the instructions, I think that steering link was meant to be 78mm long, altogether 90mm long, and then these small ones here that I've got here are supposed to be 35mm long. But as you can see there, it didn't quite line up. So it's down to the manual that I'm reading, or I've read before I actually go to install this. So I've just adjusted it a little bit just to keep the wheels straight. When I run the truck, if I see the wheels are a little bit toe out or toe in, I think I'll just adjust it by that rod there. So for now, I'll leave it like that and it's fixed. The next job was the pivot bushes. I noticed in the last video, when I got the truck, they were installed the other way around. So I've just turned them around and installed them correctly. So I'll remember for next time. I actually do replace these at a later date because I realised I wasn't happy with these ones. That's good. So this one is the tear down of the shocks. Now with these shocks, they are aftermarket shocks and they're very good. As I was taking them apart, I just wanted to learn what they were about and all that sort of stuff, and also the screws that are mounted on the axle there were too long, so I was just learning the length of the screws because I really wanted to cut them down so they're flush on the nuts. And
bone dry.
Yeah, I think I realised that's bone dry when I've opened it up. Yeah, so basically I'll just stripped them all down, just learning what the shocks are about, if there was any oil in there or any perished rubbers and seals and all that kind of stuff, and I just took it all apart. Realised that the fronts are actually shorter than the back, so they're not the same size shocks all the way through, which, as you can see there, one's a little bit longer than the other one. So I kept it as it is because it gives it the kind of the sort of dip stance of the truck, which looks pretty cool. So I thought I'd leave it as it is. So I was happy with the actual shocks itself, so I just took them apart, I cleaned them up, and yeah, I was kind of happy with it. As you can see with these shocks, they're fully adjustable, so they've got the little screw, the the actual shock body has a screw thread on it, so you can adjust the damping of the actual shock. And also inside the shock, where that little diaphragm is, you can see that little round disc, the holes in it, they're actually screwed in place. Most shocks, or cheap shocks, don't come like that. Usually they come with like a circlip, and it's a bit of a nightmare to get off. But these ones come fully with screws and stuff like that, so it's very easy to take apart. So I'm just counting all the little parts that come out the shock to make sure all the parts are the same. As you can see up the very top, where the two shock bodies are, there's a couple of extra parts that are in one of them, like a plastic disc and an extra washer or screw, as I remember. So yeah, sometimes, you know, when you buy trucks used, it just depending on the skill of the person that's building it or putting it together, you know, you can find all sorts of stuff when you're stripping these sort of used RC cars down. So I'm just looking in the shock body. I noticed that there's a double seal system in the bottom of the shock, as in there's a seal, and then there's a plastic disc, and then there's another seal to stop the shock oil from leaking out the bottom to the shaft. So I was just checking to make sure they're all right. So as you can see, I'm taking them out now. So I've just got some, I think, as I can see, I think this is IPA. I don't know why I had it in that bottle, but it was in there, and I shook it up for a bit, and I realised that it didn't really take the dirt off the shocks. So I'm looking inside the shock bodies, and I can see all the dirt in there and all that, and I'm thinking, why is it not taking? Then I realised the smell, and it was IPA instead of. In a minute, I'll get the brake cleaner out. I'll empty that and get the brake cleaner out in a minute. I forgot two seals on this one, so there you go. I'll take the seals off. Yeah, so I tip the IPA back in the bottle, and then I realised I should have put brake cleaner in there. So now I'll get the brake cleaner out and watch the difference. So spray it with brake cleaner, and then watch the dirt come off the actual socks to make some different difference. Oh, I leave it in there to soak a bit. I forgot about that. So I leave it in there to soak, and I'll just organise the shock components for the rebuild, just to make sure no washers are missing, or anything that was in there that shouldn't be in there. So as you can see, one of the shocks is missing a washer. So each shock has two washers. One above that plastic white disc you can see there with the little pinholes, and one below it. But I had one missing, so this is when I'm thinking, where have I got washers that size?
So I have to do for bottom side, innit? Bottom side. Up side. Two top side.
So I think I'm speaking there where I'm working out that the washers that I see in front of me are the correct size, and obviously they sit on top of the shaft and stop the actual white disc from going all the way down to the bottom of the shaft. So I'm working out now that the silver washers that I see there can be below the disc, and then I can use my own kind of washer on the top of the disc. As that silver washer stops the actual plastic discs from dropping
Get rid of that.
past the threads. I've just skipped forward now and taken the shock bodies out. They were covered in dirt. The water, the actual fluid was actually black. So now I'm just putting it all back together. I'm just spraying it with silicone spray as well, just to give it that little bit of lubrication. I think this was a Teflon type one. So I just spray up the shock bodies and everything else with a bit of silicone spray, because it just helps to apply all the seals and keep the seals moist from where they've been in contact with the brake cleaner. It could dry things out. It does definitely dry the plastics out. So every time I use brake cleaner with these kind of components, I always like spray a little bit of silicone oil on the components, just to give it that oil base and keep the plastics kind of supple and soft. So it's just a reverse of dismantling these shocks. So, you know, everything's going back together. This is when I realised that I did put the screw on top of the shock shaft, and then I realised, you know what, I need some washers. So I put the washer in first, then I put the disc. See? So washer, disc, and then I'm in the toolbox now looking for washers that can go on top of the disc. So there's me just matching up like the hole size as close as I can. So there you go. So, and then I realised the washers weren't any good. So what I had to do is go back to the original plan I had in my head, is just to put the main original washers at the bottom of the disc, and then whatever washers I've got left could go at the top of the disc on a couple of the shocks, and then I'll just have to screw the nut down to the actual original shock. Yeah, so that's complete. So now I'll just tighten down the actual screws, or nuts I should say. So as you can see there, I'm just spraying the shocks with silicone. The plastics are very dry after being in the brake cleaner. So I'll just give them all a bit of a wipe down to just take the excess off. And that's it. Thanks for watching.